Hello and welcome to episode something of the Boot Nerds podcast. We're back after almost a year, and I just noticed we didn't plan this. We're almost matching.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't actually own the brand of the company I'm wearing, but no, it is what it is. But welcome back. And I mean, this is actually we've talked a lot, but I think it's the first time we're actually on a video call since the last podcast. This is weird. If you've tuned in again out there, thank you very much. What on earth are we doing here? Well, there's been so many comments. You've had them on Instagram, in real life.
I've had them in real life.
Yeah. We just texted about it and was like, should we bring it back for at least one episode and just see how it does and what it feels like? So here we are. It's 2024. Lots of stuff has happened, and we just figured we'd go over the highs and lows of 2023 and then talk a bit about the new stuff that's just dropped. But how are you doing, man?
You know what? Can't complain. We just got an awful snowstorm this morning, so I'm not super thrilled about that. I'm already dreading going outside to clean my truck off, but that's besides the point. I'm good. How are you, Jay?
I'm also good, thanks. It's just a side note, things that will never change on the Boot Nerds podcast is that Josh is doing pretty well, and that weather in Canada is absolutely awful. There's probably a snowstorm either has just been there or coming up.
We've actually had, again, side note, totally irrelevant to what we're about to talk about, but we've actually had a very mild winter so far. Although next week's it's supposed to get cold.
Yeah, but I think the people following the Boot Nerds podcast are also, there's a small side interest in the general weather situation in Canada.
Absolutely. So I didn't want to disappoint those people.
Yeah, of course. The funny thing is that I don't know what's happened, but we actually already have had a Canadian-like snowstorm in Denmark, at least where I live,
really?
where we couldn't get out of the driveway. It's been ridiculous. I texted you, or I thought of texting you, but I figured it'd be Tuesday to you, so probably wasn't that big of a deal, really. So yeah, but now I'm doing good, thanks. Since we spoke last time, I think I'm now a father of two.
You have several more children, yes.
I've so many children, but no, it's things are great. We're happy, and the kid's growing, so yeah, I can't complain. Still time to play football, so yeah.
Excellent.
It's lovely. Yeah, but 2023, what a year, huh? What a year
it was. Some really good stuff.
Yeah.
But I think I don't think it was a great year for football boots looking back, to be honest.
I think it's not unfair to say that. And with that said, we've still had quite a number of boots that I would say are really, really good. Some have been, we've definitely, it's been very divisive, right? It's been a divisive year. I think we started the year really well, and we also ended the year really well. And so I'm excited to see if 2024 is going to be the same. I mean, we started with obviously the accuracy, which at the time of release was like a big thing because it came off of the edge, which was dreadful. And the accuracy, for all its flaws, had just it did many things right. Right, it reintroduced hybrid touch and it was just fit much better. Didn't kill your feet and just. There was some issues for me, at least, with the heel and the lockdown in the heel, and it felt a bit sloppy to me, but definitely an enjoyable football boot to wear. So good stuff, already.
Yeah, low cut model had its fit issues, disappointingly.
It definitely did.
But the mid and the laceless versions, I think, were both very good, and it was certainly a huge step in the right direction for the Predator series.
Yeah.
Not to mention just generally very unique. I feel like what's so important in a new football boot release these days is standing out. And what I liked about accuracy, and I think what the Predator line has more or less always been in its heyday, was something so different from anything else you could get. So I appreciated that about the accuracy.
And you definitely didn't see that little weighted piece on any other football boot, right?
No, and that's as we all know, that's critical to overall performance.
Absolutely. Biggest gimmick of 2024? So 23, of course. Sorry.
I would say no, definitely not. Definitely not.
No.
I would say the Phantom Luna as a whole was the biggest gimmick of 2023.
We'll get back to that. What also came out, I mean, I don't know if the first GX really counts as a 2023. Where did I leave that? Did I not bring it? I didn't bring it. So basically what you see behind me is just like a wide office wall. That's because we moved out of the studio. Archive took up so much space. We had to move our desks into another office. So I'm just here, Superboy. So I don't really have my boots with me, but Josh, you have it. Phantom GX, does it count as a 2023 release?
Not really, but
Not really,
it kind of does in the sense that the initial launch color was so hard to get your hands on that it really wasn't even available until 2023. But yeah, I think definitely one of the better boots available all throughout last year, and a lot of people really liked it. I think big improvement over Phantom GT.
Yes.
And yeah, probably the best Phantom product since
the Hypervenom Phantom 3.
Yeah, probably. I think Venom was really good too. But
Venom, I like the Vision 2s as well, but you know, I think for me at least the GX I would have liked. I liked the tooling, but if it had been stiffer, basically, I would have been happier. And if the heel had been slightly tighter fitting, had a better lock-in, that would have been perfect for me. But I do have a slim foot, so it's fair. I know a lot of people just love it, right? But I think we're gonna look back at the GX in a couple of years' time. Maybe not as we look at the Hypervenom Phantom 1, but it's gonna be up there in terms of, okay, that was really special. We didn't appreciate it enough. I think it's been that monumental of a release. It brought something in completely new, GripKnit. The fit was wild. People haven't really experienced something like that for many, many years, right? I think we almost are going back to the first Hypervenom in terms of how free that upper was. But there was also some structure to it. It had that added grip feel that we hadn't really tried before. Really unique and just fit really well.
Yeah, and I think what's really cool about the GripKnit in particularly on original GX and a little bit on the new GX2 as well, which we'll get into in a bit. That's a very consistent grip across the entire foot with no additional bulk. And I think, not to credit, actually, no, the GX does not have ACC branding anywhere on it, but I really found that this grip, probably more than any other boot that I've tried, remains so consistent even in the wet.
Yeah.
Because sometimes with the rubber element, while you get that grip in the dry, in the wet, I still think there's a grip benefit, but there's definitely a drop off. And you didn't get that as much with Phantom GX. So I think very consistent in terms of providing that grip, which is really impressive.
Yeah. The only thing for me was that it was too sticky on AG. I mean, I don't know the amount of times I've fallen over because, you know, you step on the top of the ball to make a roll or something and it just gets stuck, right?
That's the ball sticking to the surface more than it would on natural grass. Unfortunately. And you know, it was just, you know, really, really good football. And again, I think for me, I just thought about it when the GX2 came out that, in 5 years' time, are we going to look back at the GX, especially with the reaction also as well? People really, you know, it's like people are starting to realize, damn, you know, we haven't appreciated this enough. Let me stock up basically on them. Yeah, unfortunately, we live in a world where maintaining hype and excitement around any product over an extended period is more or less impossible. And again, it's hard to say if it was as popular as it was when it launched during the World Cup because of how limited they seem to be. But the fact that they launched a boot and you couldn't get it easily for like 3 months, we haven't really seen that in the world of football boots for probably since Superfly 4 and Obra, to be honest with you.
Yeah, mate. And honestly, you know, at Unisport at least, I don't know what it's been like at other retailers. I've just been, you know, checking the sites and all the regular sizes have just been gone quickly. It's been really, really popular. So So, obviously it was a monumental task for Nike to update. We're going to talk about that, as you said, in a bit. But let's just roll over a couple of the other new boots we've had. Obviously, new Copa Pure, which was relatively, it kind of went under the radar. Super, super solid football boot. Just a few tweaks here and there. Obviously, we got the knit collar on the Plus, which was really nice. And I think it's just overall a very, very refined boot that has Mizuno Morelia Neo vibes, but just in a slightly wider fit. Not quite as good for me, but definitely speaks the same language, right?
I really like Plus. Plus to me takes what was so great about the laceless Copas, adds the lacing system, which solves a lot of the lockdown fit responsiveness issues. And again, when you look at what your alternatives are outside of Mizuno, like it is, to me, Pure Plus is the premier kind of leather football boot to get right now. If you're looking at something from the big three, because obviously Puma and Nike are just kind of getting away from leather entirely, which is sad.
It's the only one, right? Yeah.
And it was a surprising boot for me because I totally expected to like 2.1 a lot more.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know, something about it. It's not that it's a bad pair of boots, but I felt like it doesn't come across as seamless as the Pure Plus does.
Yeah, it's just that bulk in the heel for me, which is it's just too big, right?
Yeah,
also,
it's a bulky football boot.
Yeah, it is. And maybe it speaks a little bit more to people who like the classics a little bit better, but for me, it just never really worked out that well, the point ones. Definitely also like the pluses a bit more. And it's for me, that's a bit of a sleeper boot, the Pure Plus. Because it just works. Really, really,
really
well.
solid.
And you don't expect it to be as good as it is, right? Staying in that lane, obviously, we had this. Nike said goodbye to the Legend 9 and introduced the Legend 10, and also said goodbye to Kangaroo leather altogether. In a move that definitely it caused a lot of, I wouldn't say controversy, but it was a move that a lot of people talked about and a lot of people disagreed with. And I have had a lot of thoughts about the Legend 10. You can tell me if you agree or not, but I think this probably should not have been the Legend 10. If this had been the CTR 360 Maestro 4, it might have been a lot more successful because it would have been more in tune with what people are expecting from that silo. Because I think it's a great football boot. I enjoy wearing it. It's hard to really point your finger and say this is objectively bad, but it just doesn't fit into that whole perception of what a Tiempo is, right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly the best way to describe it, as a singular experience, ignoring the fact that it's called Tiempo at all. I think it's a really solid product. And you're right. As a reintroduction of the CTR 360 line, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Where a Tiempo Legend becomes disappointing for me is when you go and try the Legend 9, or you go and try a Pure Plus, or you go and try a leather Mizuno and you realize, wow, it's just not the real thing. It's convincing in a lot of ways. And I think I said this in multiple videos already. It'll trick a lot of people. For the average consumer that walks in a store and doesn't really know the difference between leather and synthetic, I think you can actually put those on and think, oh, Legend 10, nice leather, super soft. It's great. Very impressive material. But again, is it really a Tiempo? Probably not.
Yeah. And the thing is that, I might actually like the Tiempo Legend 10 more than the 9 if we're just, disregarding what silo it is, the expectations I would have going into the boot, completely blindfolded, but doing a blind test, no nothing, I would probably choose the Legend 10s, but that's obviously because of my personal preferences. But I do think it's a very good football boot. But again, it's the expectation coming into a Tiempo that it has a certain level of that leather feel, that plushness that you get in only a leather boot, right? So I think that I wouldn't call it a flop per se. I'm not sure necessarily it's gotten the reception that Nike were expecting. Maybe they're playing the long game. That might also be. But for me, there was just some potential in this particular boot what they have made here that is not, it hasn't been realized, right? So if they just reintroduced the CTR 360, it's a good boot. It has a place in modern football, I think. So that for me is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, it's just like Nike is obviously known for banking big changes in football boots, right? Superfly 4 is a perfect example of them taking something that was so successful and so popular and more or less introducing something entirely different for seemingly no reason. I really do believe that Mercurials would have remained as popular as they are now had Flyknit never been introduced into Mercurials. And obviously, it's not really a big part of the series anymore.
Yeah.
But they made that change and it went off really well. I think this is them trying to do that again. And unfortunately, it's the fan base of the Tiempo legend has not responded to it. I think if you like the idea of a synthetic football boot that has some leather-like qualities, Tiempo Legend 10 is great. But if you still want a leather boot, buy a leather boot.
Exactly. And that's what, the consumers are lucky. It's not, it's not like we're losing. Yeah, sure, the hardcore Legend fans are losing. But the general consumer that just wants, they just go somewhere else. They go to the Morelia Neo Elites or, go get the Copa Puris. And I think it's a bit funny. I said in my top 5 review of 2023, it's just funny how the Tiempo gets out-Tiempo'd by its biggest rival in the Copa Pure, right? So
yeah.
That's a bit of a shame, and again, the potential was there as a football boot. I just feel that they just took the wrong turn, basically, with the naming. That's it. It's the naming.
Yeah,
for me,
it just shouldn't be a Tiempo. But again, if they're looking to get rid of leather entirely, then I suppose it makes more sense to keep the Tiempo name rather than change it. But
I would just have retired Tiempo until they had a better alternative, or let it rest for a bit, and then when they brought it back, people would be so happy to just see Tiempo back. Like with Predator 18 Plus, it wasn't really a Predator, was it? But people were just so happy after 3 aces to just, it's here again.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree with that.
Yeah. We can finish off on Addy. Well, let's not do that because there's more Addy stuff. Speaking of a boot that could have been something entirely different, could have been called something else. Skechers SKX01, probably the Phantom GT3 in anything but name. Really solid pair of football boots, to be fair. I think it surprised a lot of people, myself included. Slipped them on and thought, wow, Skechers. And they are, we just gotta hold our hands up and say, at least for me, fantastic first product to launch on the market.
For a brand that I think I don't know what Skechers as a brand is like in terms of like representation over in Europe, but over here it doesn't have the best reputation.
No.
They're known for basically copycatting every sneaker under the sun that's even remotely successful, and I've never been a big fan of their business practices in that regard. And unfortunately, they've kind of done that with their first launch. I know there's former Nike guys on the team, and obviously you expect there to be some similarities to other football boots. It's very difficult these days to make something entirely unique, but you sign away a Nike guy and you put him in basically the same boot he was wearing. But better. This is better than Phantom GT1 or 2.
And that's the thing, can you say, are they winning any awards for like their ingenuity or how clever this is or how new and disruptive it is? Probably not. But at the end of the day, they have to make a football boot that works, right? And they've done that, and they're filling out a gap in the market. I don't know how big of a gap there was after the GTs, but they're coming in, making a boot that really wasn't there, making it better, getting the guy from Nike who was wearing said boot and just slapping him. I think it's been a much better launch for Skechers that they could have hoped for, because they got people talking. The product is solid, maybe slightly too high of a price to really disrupt the marketplace, but you can't fault the product. At least you can't majorly fault the product, right? So kudos to them. And the same thing can be said for the Razor. I mean, for me, I'd hope they hadn't stuck with that Skechers Anatomicals shape that they're really doing a lot of. It was super wide, very, very wide toe box and all that stuff. This boot had a lot of going for it, a lot of things going for it, but just, a little bit more of an athletic fit for me would have probably done very good things for it.
Yeah, it's for the speed boot style that it is, it's definitely a little bit wider, higher volume than most of the competitors. But I mean, if it suits your foot type, I think Skechers Razor is sneaky good. And I agree with you in that price point was way too aggressive from them. I think they need to, at the end of the day, you got to know your place. And Skechers as a brand, I don't think is calling for a premium in any footwear space, let alone football boots. So to try and go toe to toe with the big boys, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
I get they want to change that and come in and say, look, we're premium. Price point says we're premium. And I get that, but maybe they should have done a Puma and just said, okay, we can't compete as well as we'd like to at least. Let's go to 200 euros, just introduce a killer product and make people realize that, wow, damn. And then build on it from there. Puma are up to what, like 230 now?
Yeah.
All of it. And that's people still,
I've never understood that about football boot brands trying to break into the market. It's like, I understand wanting to associate your product with good quality.
Sure.
And people will associate a higher price tag to better quality.
Sure.
But I think of like the electronic space and these random phones that come out that are half the price or a quarter of the price of an iPhone and perform to the same level. People get excited about that. People stand behind companies that offer really good value. And I don't understand the logic in trying to break into such a saturated market at a price point where there are literally 30 other options. Like it's very difficult to stand out. Plus the reputation that Skechers has. You're right. I think it went over as a launch of a brand that really nobody was asking for. It's gone over quite well. But could it have been so much better? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I agree. Just the potential was there with the products. But let's see what they come out with in 2024, if they do. I would assume they do, but let's see. I mean, the future, as I see it, is promising. But they also have to, the next products also have to be good to really sustain the impact that they've had, right? What else do we have? Neo 4 Beta, Japan. Hooray! It's
predictably great.
Yeah, great, awesome, woohoo! Raise the price by 10 euros to give us a slightly more stable midfoot. I mean, we're singing Mizuno's praise a lot, and there's still some of the very best football boots around. Probably the ones I would wear if I had to go play a match tomorrow, right, or something. They'd be up there. But they haven't really changed much. I don't really think they're justifying raising the price by 10 euros.
Definitely not.
And it's already super expensive. So it's just a little bit, I find it hard to be excited about the Neo 4. Sure, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And maybe they just should have kept the 3 and just not raised the price. I mean, no one will notice. Honestly.
Yeah, they're kind of on the KFC original recipe type marketing strategy with Morelli and Neo at this point. I think they know there's a market for it and they are not trying to screw that up, which I can appreciate. You're right. It's hard to get excited about pretty much the same football boot for so many years now. Even if you look at original Neo, while there's definitely significant change from there, visually, if you didn't know any better, it's the same thing.
I brought out the original Neo for a video I did last year, and you could tell that the fit is better and it's different, but it's not that different.
No, it's not.
Yeah, nah. So great, Mizuno, hooray, all that stuff. What else did we do?
I'm trying to think what else there even was.
Oh, Puma.
Oh, Puma had a bad year. Yeah.
I mean, this for me, the Ultra. I look back at all the Ultras and thought back to the first Ultra, and just thought, how did we get here? It's stiffer. It doesn't fit as well. Maybe it's just for my foot, but it doesn't really fit my foot well. I really have an issue with their heels. For me, it's just the
heels
super
bad.
shallow heels. They don't really lock the foot in. There's just a lot of dead space around the foot upper. I'm struggling to get these on, and it's not, for me. This is not a soft upper. That's actually able to compete with what else is out there in 2023 and 24. So I do get what they want to do, and sure, it's very responsive because of the rigidity of the boot, right? But for me, it's not it. And I would rather go back to the first couple of generations of the Ultra.
Yeah, Ultra is on a steady. I do think as Gen 2 Ultra Ultimate, I think it is a little bit better than the first one. At least I found it to be slightly better. Not by much.
That's fair.
But, and as a high-end product, it's still using high-quality elements. I still think it feels okay. Is kind of the nicest I can be about it. But for $220 or however many euros it is now, it sucks. It sucks. You shouldn't buy it.
I think at least I'm not gonna be that bold, but I would definitely say that it would not be top of my list for speed boots I would buy in 2024. As a matter of fact, I think it would probably be the last one.
That's what I'm saying. It's bottom of the list. There's no really good reason to buy it unless you are at a Puma outlet store and they are half price and you happen to like the way that they feel.
You just like the way that the Superfly 2s fit, and it was just like really, it is just holding your foot at every point and just
yeah.
That's It is what it is. What else was there? Of course, there was the Predator. We really had the Phantom Luna.
Yeah, mess.
Yeah.
Disaster.
Yeah.
No. Okay, I'm being really harsh. Marketing angle was interesting. I want to be very careful about what I say here. I don't agree. I think it was confusing more people than convincing more people.
Yeah. I think with the Luna, it's not in itself a bad product. But I think coming out after the GX was a problem because you have GripKnit, which people expect to be similar to what is on the GX. And it's not. You expect, it has a different liner. It has the same liner as we saw in the Magistas, which means that it feels a lot like a Magista. I liked the idea about the Cyclone tooling. I think it has a great cause, and I do enjoy what the forefoot does, particularly in terms of that, really pushing off in any direction. Love that. Is way too soft for me. I don't know what's going on with the Phantom outsoles, but they're so soft in the midfoot. I can't really enjoy them. And I just never got that aha feeling with the Luna. I understand some people who like the Magistas will actually also like the Luna. And I get that. But for me, it was just subpar in more or less every department to the GX. So it was just at a disadvantage from the get-go. And now, of course, it was also branded as, made, inspired, made from her, but for everyone. And it was made in women's sizing and all that. And that's a good story. I think the whole injury prevention for women, great purpose to make a boot from. But then to what they've done with the GX and Luna 2, and made the Luna 2 just a GX with a collar. It's unnecessarily confusing.
Yeah.
And I think in that light, people never really got Luna in the first place, and now they're starting to get Luna, and they change back to what?
It's like I understand them trying to do a new wave, and it's not the first time Nike has tried to do. They've had women specific lines way back in the day, way back in the day, and most people don't even know about it. And they tried even in 2014. They did some women specific colorways and women's sizing and stuff like that. No real physical difference in terms of shaping. And that's kind of the case with the Luna. It's more or less the same shape as the Phantom GX, but with just a firmer upper. And yeah, there are some shades of Magista Obra in terms of design. I think it's almost a bit of a stretch to say that it's a similar product. And again, in terms of like gimmicks in football boots, the 360 Cyclone stud pattern, rotational movement is great if the ground's really soft and breaks underneath you super easily. But under normal firm ground conditions, there's nothing about a bladed circle of studs that makes you able to rotate more easily. So I don't even buy the injury prevention angle of it. Again, it is kind of a weird sole plate in terms of where the flex point is. I agree with you. Feels stiff in the forefoot, soft through the midfoot, which is kind of the opposite of what you typically find.
Yeah.
It's not a comfortable boot. It's a worse version of grip knit. There's zero redeeming qualities about it when you compare it to not just Phantom GX, but almost anything.
I agree. And, had it come out before the GX, then I would have, been more lenient on it because, okay, it's not I don't think the upper's bad. It's comfortable enough. So, yeah, yeah. But what was good was that we got a second Predator in 2023, and that is, the new Predator, Pred Strike, as I have here. This is the Elite, because the Elite is my favorite. I think it's nice to have the tongue back and the vibes are there and cool, and yoo-hoo, but I think long-term I'm just going to stick with this because it feels ever so slightly more nimble and the upper's the same, and what an absolutely smash hit of a launch.
It's... the only fumble, Jay, is so far as I would argue colorways. I think I've been a bit... I would have liked to have seen something a little more traditional.
Yeah, but you've seen what's happening on pitch right now. You've seen what's going on, right?
Yeah. I know what's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming, but why not just start with that?
I don't know because this looks more disruptive, I think. And it gets people going. So the ones that are really excited about the product, they get it. And then people who actually also want the colorway, they get it when the colorway they want drops. I don't think it's that bad. And this still has reference. I mean, Power Swerve, Fantasy Power Swerve. Anyone? I don't hate it as much. But you're right. They could have chosen a more popular, generally appealing colorway. But apart from that, this is so good. It hits all the right notes. The upper is fantastic. The last is great, for me at least. Also, it's all right, I guess. The elements, they have the perfect balance of stickiness, SL rubber stickiness, that what you expect. They're not in the way, really. The heel is much better than it was on the accuracy, and just it's an overall enjoyable boot that I can see myself wearing a lot in 24. It's light too.
Yeah, it is. It feels like the Predator that we've kind of been hypothetically building over several episodes of the Boot Nerds podcast within the last several years. That's what it really feels like to me. It's the move nobody expected. If you told me in 2024, one of the best players in the world is going to be wearing Predators with a fold-over tongue held down by an elastic strap, I would never believe you.
You probably also wouldn't have believed that the best player in the world would have been Jude Bellingham. But, we all get surprised, right? But
it's a crazy thing to think that the Predator is back in terms of popularity in the way that it is.
Yeah. Oh, but they were, they couldn't have timed it any better with his, just like he's scoring every match. Trend is coming in, scoring, assisting, that launch was absolutely phenomenal. And, Nike launching the GX must have just been, holding their heads thinking, not now, please.
Yeah.
Speaking of the GX2, and the Luna 2, I have here the AG Pro outsole, which is probably what I'm going to be wearing a lot because it just feels a little bit more nimble than the Luna tooling. I think it is a very, very good football boot. It has its flaws. I don't understand this whole, why did they make this tongue color thing higher so it bunches up and all that stuff. But as a whole, still fantastically soft upper. I like the I like the slightly more balanced grip on AG in these. Fit as wonderfully well as the GX. They are a bit more loose to me, which means that I prefer the slightly more snug but still very soft fit in the first GX. But if you have a higher volume foot, slightly wider, I don't see why you wouldn't love these.
It's wider through the midfoot and forefoot than GX was, but still has that really pinched toe box, which I'm still not in love with, to be honest with you. And
that's fair.
Nike's doing that. They did the same thing on Tiempo. It has a really pinched toe box.
I love it. Love it, mate.
Yeah, that's not my cup of tea. I prefer a slightly more rounded shape generally. Sure. It's not that I can't wear it, but I don't know. I find it to be a little bit more comfortable. I get that it is an attribute in terms of making the boot feel a little tighter just because it is fitting tighter. But I don't know. From a comfort perspective, I'd rather not have my toes kind of squished quite as much as
that's fair.
This shape kind of allows for.
Okay.
But it's a pleasant surprise because I think when we saw that effectively Nike was going to take GX and Luna and blend them together into one football boot, you end up with a product that admittedly looks like it takes way more from Luna than it does from GX, but in reality it's the opposite.
Yeah, it just adds feels, on top of the GX, right?
Yeah, it's full grip all the way through. So very similar to the GX in that regard. Maybe a little bit more padded in terms of how it feels. It's a little softer on the ball.
Sure.
And for whatever reason, I do think that this sole plate feels better with this upper, which leads me to believe that just the original Luna was such a stiff boot that it made the sole plate feel worse than it actually was.
Could be.
And again, I know people hate the idea of the injury prevention. Don't buy into that. I disagree with it too. But as an overall stud pattern, while I preferred the stud pattern of the original GX, I don't think what we have here is bad. So as a whole, I actually think it's a pretty good product, although this might go down as one of the ugliest launch colors of all time.
Yeah, it's not great. They're going to rectify and it's all going to be good, but that's not what I would have run with either, probably. But I do think that for me, at least, the GX2 is more of a sidestep. I said in my review, more of a sidestep, something slightly different to the original than a drastic improvement or what's the opposite of improvement of
regression.
Regression. Let's put it out. Obviously, let's just quickly, we're not going to ramble on for too long, guys, here and bore you with all that stuff. Updated New Balance boots, Tequila 4 Plus, as they're called, no more Vs, and the Furon 7, of which both a bit softer, still really, really good football boots for me. This Tequila is absolutely phenomenal. I love it. Softer upper, slightly more rounded toes, not as square, boxy as it was on the V4. That heel, probably the best fitting heel in the game for me, alongside the Mizuno boots. Tooling is solid. I can live with it, and I don't really have many complaints wearing this, and it's going straight into the match day rotation. Honestly, early contender for new boot of the year for me.
Okay, yeah, no, all the high end New Balance stuff has been sneaky good all throughout 2023, and the refresh looks like. I think all the refreshes from New Balance have all been a step in the right direction, despite the minimal change.
Oh, by the way, before we end X, we also forgot Crazy Fast.
Oh, we didn't talk about that.
Yeah, I like it. But
no, it doesn't feel like something that they haven't done before.
Right.
That's for sure. I like the idea of trending back into U-throat construction, central lacing system. It's more F50 Adizero like than what we've seen in a while for that reason specifically. I just think that I'm starting to not like the plasticky textile base uppers quite as much.
I get that. And in hand, it's not as impressive for me as it is on feet. But it just on feet, there are some flaws with this as well, but it just has that. it really embodies for me what a modern speed boot, like a hardcore speed boot, should be. We talked about it with the Speed Flow as well. Like it's thin, it's light, it's very close to the foot, super sculpted, snappy outsole. It's minimal, and it's not the most comfortable thing or stable thing in the world. I don't care. I want that, the roughness, the raw sensation of a speed boot that should, and that is what the Crazy Fast gives me, and that's what I'm gonna miss no matter what they do. I think, unless they bring back the Speed Flow. So really,
it is
really
a
product.
super raw boot to wear, and also again to relate it back to OG F50 Adizero, it is by far the lightest boot on the market. So if that whole weightless thing is your thing, that there's nothing better.
Absolutely. Last thing to end on, New Future 7 Ultimate thoughts.
I think it's better than previous Future Ultimate in terms of how it wraps your foot. Am I in love with the Y-shaped power tape? Puma needs to stop. I feel like their naming structure for all their technologies, they're all too similar, and it's hard to remember unless you have the boots in front of you with all the labeling that they like to do.
Blah, yeah.
Power print, power tape, whatever it is. I just don't like the feeling of the pinch across the top of the foot. It's good. It's for the first time. It's actually effective as a technology that you can feel. Yep. But is it benefiting anything other than just feeling like there's a little pinch on top of your foot?
I don't think it's doing enough. So it definitely does something, and I commend Puma for that. And I like that they dedicate themselves to going in this direction. But I just think cutting down on the lace holes and having still a pretty shallow heel that doesn't really allow the heel to slip into the heel and being locked in, that would have really, amplified the feeling of lockdown, that they attack your foot, so to speak, from all sides, right? But it's just like, okay, a lockdown from the lacing has regressed a bit, then there's a bit more structure and stiffness from the power tape, but it's not really enough to do it for me. And having a high volume midfoot, there is a little bit of it's more obvious for me. So solid boot, I do think is more comfortable than the previous one, but I think it's gonna be very personal whether you will be able to live with the power tape the way it is right now. And I just don't. I think overall, I just don't get awesome with the option. Shape of the boot.
Yeah, it's a really good option if you want a knitted upper. That's what it is. If you want that sock-like feel from a pair of football boots, I still think it's one of the best options, especially at the price Puma's charging.
I cannot disagree with that. But I would rather, at that price point, buy a Tequila 4+.
Yeah, that's also fair.
And I lost Josh. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, no.
Now he's back.
Am I back?
Actually, with those words, with technology starting to fail us, Josh, that was an overview of 2023. Talked a little bit about what's new in 2024. It's going to be an exciting year. To add to that excitement, we're also going to try and do a little bit more off the podcast. We can't promise to be back at we can promise you we're not going to be back at a regular basis, but we might be back more regularly than we have been. So the podcast, no, it's not dead. We're still alive. We're just doing many, many, many things, family, all that stuff. So yeah, but it's been fun to do again. Good seeing you again, my friend. And any last notes before we round it off?
No, I just like how you gifted the viewers the promise of inconsistency.
Of course.
That's hilarious.
I mean, they know us, right? It was like, what can we do? Go watch us on SR4U and Unisport. Yeah.
Maybe post more, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. We promise that we can't promise anything. All right, my friend. I'll be going home to the family. I hope you have a good one. Thank you so much for watching, guys and girls. Leave us your thoughts and comments right down below if you have any. We'd love to hear your thoughts on 2023 and the beginning of 24. Remember to subscribe. Not that there's going to be much regular content, but subscribe anyway for the fun of it. And then I guess we'll see you guys around. I've been J Mike, and I approve this message as always.
Thanks for watching and or listening. We'll see you again next time, sometime.
In 25.